Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So now guys, we depart from our regular political diet to go into like a human nature sort of a story. Now guys, before we get into this, they say that statistically 4 out of every 10 person that calls you daddy within the Nigerian space is actually not your biological son. I'm not even sure if that statistic is limited to Nigeria or a global statistic, but certainly there's a reckoning that 4 out of every 10 child that calls a person daddy is not actually, and I'm not talking about adoption or anything like that, is not actually that person's biological child. Man threatens to kill himself after discovering the 2 boys he is sponsoring in Canada are not his sons. So now this is now the narrative that we're contending with within the Nigerian space, and this is just something that just cuts through and jars your senses. It cuts right into the heart, because of course you have to imagine for a moment, if you were that man, the sleepless nights, the crying, the first steps, the word daddy that his children would have uttered that would have gladdened his heart, his school runs, the school fees, the growing up, showing them off to his friend, you know, all of the garments of being a father, to the point that he's now sent them off to Canada to round them off so that they can then come and present, and he can show off to all his friends and family to say, look, this is what I have done with my children. But alas, the headline again, man threatens to kill himself after discovering the 2 boys he's sponsoring in Canada are not his sons. So now let's get into exactly what is going on here. A Twitter user has narrated how a man broke down in tears and threatened to kill himself after discovering that the 2 boys he is sponsoring in Canada are not his. According to, and then it goes on to give the hashtag of the Twitter person that posted this, only the last child, who is 12 years old, belongs to the distraught man. The boys, aged 23 and 20, reportedly belongs to his wife's ex. So here's the tweet. So she tweeted, "There's a serious fight going on in my area this morning, and from what I heard, the husband is just finding out that he's not the father of his first and second born. They are for the wife's ex. The firstborn is 23 and the secondborn is 20. They are both schooling in Canada, and is the one sponsoring everything. Only for him to find out today that his only child is the last born. She is 12. The man is crying and saying he wants to kill himself." So now this is now the situation that this man finds himself in. So 23 years. So we have to go with the oldest child, of course, and then we pick it up from there. 23 years was how long this guy has been nurturing and nursing and spending on these children, and now to the point now that he's discovering now that they are not actually his. So the first thing I would suggest that this guy does is to go and do a DNA test to actually confirm that this is actually the case, because he may well just be having a fight with his wife, and the wife then, just to spite him, may have said that those 2 boys are not actually yours, because she knows that that is where his pain is. So apparently, and from what we can gather from this narrative, this guy has 3 children, 2 boys, 1 girl. And I don't really need to tell anybody that is listening to this what they want is of a Nigerian man to have boys that will take over his name. So he has 2, 1 here and 1 spare, and he's now trying to build them as best he can, sending them off to Canada to go round them off, giving them the very best that he has to offer, only to then discover, at least, I don't know how he has discovered, this is why I'm saying that this is not a story that should be over at this point, because the man still needs to do some DNA test just to be absolutely certain that these are not his children. But to discover now that after all that 23 years of spent, let's even forget all the money, let's forget the money that he has spent, the love, the affection, the devotion, the pride, the worries, the anxiety, the joys, the laughter, the kicking a ball about, the rough and tumble, all of that joy that he has enjoyed, all of that build up to then get to that final stage when he's trying to round these boys off so that they can be people within society, human assets, not just human beings, and then suddenly to then discover much to is clear, not even his chagrin, because that's too mild a word, to his utter heartbreak, I should say, that these children are not actually his. So now, this is now something that recurs within the Nigerian space regularly. It's usually some wife trying to do that to spite you, but I am suggesting that first get a scientific, a categorical proof that this is the case before you then take your next course of action. Conversations in the comment section, it will not be your portion, but what would you do? Come share thoughts. But before you do that, click on the red subscribe button so it turns gray. Bell button notifies you every time I drop a new video. Then come share stories and opinions on how you think this guy should react, or how you imagine this guy would feel after 23 years of spending on 3 children to then discover that 2 of them are not his. Come share thoughts about all this with me in the comment section. So I'll leave you here. Carry this conversation on with you in the comment section. But here I say peace.